Welcome to episode 30 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is MyLinda Butterworth, and today we continue with the epic tale of Heracles, with the chapter Subsequent Exploits of Heracles. Before all else, he set out to punish King Laomedon, the insolent and willful ruler who had built the walls of Troy. For when on his way back from battling with the Amazons, Heracles had freed Hippocoon, Laomedon's daughter, from the dragon which was threatening her. The king had not only broken his word and withheld the swift horses of Zeus he had promised the hero in reward, but dismissed him with scornful words. Now Heracles took with him 6 ships and only a small number of warriors, but among them the foremost heroes of Greece: Pelos, Oeonus, Telamon. Hercules, clad in his lion's skin, had come to Telamon while he was seated on his board. Telamon had risen, made welcome his guest, and offered him wine in a golden cup. Heracles, joyfully moved by his warm hospitality, had lifted his hands to heaven and prayed, "Father Zeus, if ever you have listened graciously to my pleas, hear me now. I implore you to give childless Telamon a bold son, an heir who shall be as invulnerable as I am in this lion's skin of mine. Let him always be quickened with noble courage." Hardly had Heracles ceased speaking when the god caused an eagle, the king of birds, to fly over his head. At this the hero exulted in his heart, and he began to speak like a soothsayer, a voice that resonated with power and ecstasy. "Yes, Telamon, you shall have a son you desire, and he will be as majestic as that imperial bird. Ajax shall be his name, and he will be great in the service of the god of war." When he had said this, he seated himself at the board. A short time after, he and Telamon, together with the other heroes, set out for the war against Troy. When they had landed, Heracles made Oeonus watchman over their ships, while he and the other advanced toward the city. Laomedon hastily marshaled his forces, fell upon the ships, and slew Oeonus in combat. But when he went to return, he found himself encircled by Heracles' companions. In the meantime, the heroes besieged Troy. Telamon broke through the wall and was the first to invade the city. Heracles came after him. It was the first time in his life that the demigod had been second to anyone. Black envy clouded his soul, and an evil design swelled in his heart. He raised his sword and was about to strike down his friend, who strode on before, when Telamon looked back and guessed his intention by his gesture. With great presence of mind, he began to collect the stones lying nearest him, and when his rival asked what he was doing, replied, "I am building an altar to Heracles the victor." At these words, envy and anger melted away. Again, the two fought side by side, and Heracles killed Laomedon and all his sons, but with one of his arrows. When the city was conquered, he gave Hippocoon, King Laomedon's daughter, to his friend Telamon as the prize of victory, but he permitted her to select one captive whom she wished liberated. She chose Podarces, her brother. "It is well," said Heracles. "He shall be yours. But first, he must suffer disgrace and be another's servant. Then you may have him for the price you offer." When the boy was sold as a slave, Hippocoon snatched the diadem from her head and gave it to ransom her brother, who ever after him was called Priam. He was who was sold. Hera begrudged the demigod his triumph. On his homeward journey, she beset him with savage winds, but Zeus was angered and soon put an end to her plotting. After various adventures, Heracles decided that the second victim of his revenge should be King Augeaus, who had also failed to give him a promised reward. He invaded his country and slew him and his sons. The kingdom of Elis he gave to Phyleus, who had been driven into exile for the friendship that he had showed Heracles. After this victory, Heracles restored the Olympic Games and dedicated an altar to Pelops, who had initiated them, and 6 altars to the 12 gods, one for every 2. It is said that at that time Zeus assumed the guise of a mortal, wrestled with Heracles, suffered defeat, and wished his son happiness in his divine strength. Then Heracles set out against Pylos and King Neleus, who had once refused to purify him of his crime. He fell on his city and slew him and 10 of his sons. Only young Nestor was spared, since he was far away in the land of the Geaans, where he was being educated. In this battle, Heracles wounded even Hades, the god of the underworld, who had come down to aid the Pylians. The only one left to punish was Hippocoon of Sparta, the other king who had refused to purify Heracles of the murder of Iphitus. Hippocoon's sons, moreover, had added fuel to the flame of the demigod's hatred, for when he had come to Sparta with Oeonus, his uncle and friend, a large Molusian shepherd dog attacked his kinsman while he was looking at the palace. Oeonus threw a stone at the animal, whereupon the sons of the king rushed towards the stranger and killed him with cudgels. So now, to avenge his friend's death, along with his own grievance, Heracles assembled a host to go up against Sparta. When they were marching through Arcadia, he came and invited King Cepheus and his 20 sons to join the expedition. But at first he refused, and he feared an invasion from his neighbors from Argives. Now, Athene had given Heracles a lock of the Medusa's hair enclosed in a brazen urn. This he gave to Steropes, the daughter of King Cepheus, saying to him, "When the Argives army approach, all you need to do is raise the lock 3 times above the wall of the city without looking at it yourself, and your enemies will take flight." When Cepheus heard this, he let himself to be persuaded to take on this campaign. But though the Argives were indeed forced to flee, he himself suffered disaster after disaster, and was finally slain with all his sons. Iphitus, the brother of Heracles, also fell, but Heracles himself conquered Sparta, killed Hippocoon and his sons, brought Tyndareus, the father of Castor and Polydeuces, back to the city, and reinstated himself as king. But he retained the right to have his own descendants inherit the realm he had handed over to Tyndareus. And here ends my tale for today. But I'll be back tomorrow with more tales. Many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.